Hello and welcome, my friends. If this is your very first time listening to Speak Up, we're so happy you're here. And if you've been with us before, welcome back. It means a lot that you keep returning. Before we dive in, I just want to gently ask something. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe. It may feel like a small thing, but it truly helps us reach more people like you who are learning, growing, and trying to improve their English every single day. Now, today's topic is something that touches every one of us, stepping out of our comfort zone. We all have this space inside us that feels safe, almost like a quiet room we don't want to leave. But sometimes that safety starts to feel like a cage, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly, Ryan. And that's why this conversation feels so important. Because when we stay inside that cage of comfort, we may feel secure, but we also hold ourselves back from so many possibilities. New experiences, new confidence, even new words and conversations. For anyone listening right now, this isn't just an idea we'll talk about, it's something you can feel, something you might already be living. By the end of this episode, you'll see how taking even one small step beyond that safe space can change the way you move through your day, the way you see yourself, and the way you connect with others. And yes, if you subscribe, it will allow us to continue bringing you these moments so more people can share this journey with us.
You know, Priya, what I love about this topic is that it's so universal. Every single person listening right now has a comfort zone, whether it's in speaking up, trying something new, or just daring to stretch a little further. And stepping out doesn't always mean big, dramatic changes. Sometimes it's as simple as starting a new habit or saying a word you've been shy to say. That's the beauty of it. And I think what makes today's episode special is that we're not just going to explain what the comfort zone is, we're going to walk through it together, almost like a journey you can imagine yourself taking as you listen.
Yes, and I really want our listeners to picture themselves in this moment because this episode isn't just about listening, it's about feeling. Imagine yourself inside that familiar room where everything seems predictable. It feels safe, yes, but maybe a little heavy too, like the air is still and unmoving. What happens if you open the door, even just a little? That's what we're exploring today. So stay with us because the steps we're about to share aren't just words, they're experiences you'll recognize deep inside. And together, we'll see what happens when you dare to step into that stretch, that place where real growth begins.
You know, Priya, when we say comfort zone, it sounds almost positive, right? Like a cozy blanket or a space where nothing can hurt us. But if you sit with that thought for a while, it begins to feel different. The comfort zone isn't just about warmth and safety. It's also about predictability. It's the same routine, the same choices, the same words day after day. And that sameness can start to feel like walls closing in. It's like being in a room where every object is familiar, but the air feels heavy because nothing ever changes. We convince ourselves that this is control, that this is peace. But deep inside, there's a whisper that says, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's not comfort at all. Maybe it's limitation.
Yes, Ryan, I feel that. Because comfort zones often trick us, don't they? They feel safe on the surface, but if you look closely, they're also quietly shrinking us. Think about it. When every day looks the same, when every action is predictable, there's no surprise, no challenge, no spark of growth. It's like choosing to stand still while the world keeps moving around you. And maybe at first it feels fine, but after a while you start noticing that you're not stretching, you're not learning, you're not alive in the way you could be. The hardest part is it doesn't feel like a trap at first. It just feels like safety. Until one day you realize you've been holding yourself back.
And I think that's the scary part, Priya, that realization. It sneaks up on you. For the longest time, you tell yourself, I'm okay here, I'm comfortable, I don't need more. But then, in a quiet moment, it hits you. You've been living the same day over and over. It's not pain that keeps you there, it's familiarity. And familiarity can be just as powerful as fear. When everything is predictable, we don't have to face the unknown.
But at the same time, we don't give ourselves the chance to discover something new either. It's like sitting by a window with the curtains closed. You know there's a whole world out there, but you keep convincing yourself the dim light in your room is enough.
That image feels so real, Ryan. And you know what else? The comfort zone can actually become addictive because predictability feeds our need for control. We feel like we're managing life well because nothing surprises us. But here's the truth. Life isn't meant to be fully controlled. It's meant to be experienced. And when we're locked inside that familiar space, it's like we're only experiencing a fraction of what's possible. We limit ourselves, not because we're weak, but because we're human. And humans crave certainty. The question is, at what cost? What are we losing when we cling too tightly to the familiar?
Exactly. And the cost is usually invisible until you look back. It shows up in the opportunities you didn't take, the words you never said, the risks you avoided because you thought you weren't ready. The comfort zone blinds us to possibility. It tells us, stay here, you're safe. But it doesn't mention that staying here also means you're stuck. I think that's why naming it is so important. Because once you give it a name, once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. You realize the room you thought was protection might actually be a cage. And that moment of recognition, that's the very first step towards something bigger.
And I love that thought, Ryan, because once you notice the cage, even if the door is still closed, part of you begins to imagine what's outside. And that imagination is powerful. For anyone listening right now, maybe you've felt that whisper in your heart, that gentle tug that says, there's more than this. That's the beginning. That's the naming of the comfort zone. Because once you admit to yourself, I'm here, I've been sitting in this familiar space, you can also admit that maybe, just maybe, you're ready to push the door open. And that's where the journey really begins.
You know, Priya, when we think about comfort, we usually picture peace. But staying too long in that comfort, it comes with a hidden cost. At first, it feels like you're protecting yourself, keeping things simple and safe. But over time, there's this quiet restlessness that starts to grow. You look back at certain moments, the words you wanted to say but didn't, the chances you could have taken but avoided. They don't seem like big losses in the moment, but they gather, little by little, like shadows in the corners of the room. And suddenly, you realize the room isn't peaceful anymore. It feels heavy. It feels like you've been carrying the weight of all those what-ifs on your shoulders.
Yes, Ryan, that image is so real. Because the truth is, every missed chance leaves a trace. You tell yourself, I'll try tomorrow, or it's not the right time. And in that moment, you feel relieved. But later, when you're alone with your thoughts, those moments echo back. They come as questions. What if I had spoken up? What if I had dared to try? And those questions don't disappear, they build. It's like stacking invisible stones inside yourself, one on top of the other, until the weight feels unbearable. And the saddest part is, no one else can see it. From the outside, you look fine. But inside, you're carrying the heaviness of everything you chose not to do.
And that's the part no one really talks about, the quiet pain of not trying. We're taught to avoid failure, to play it safe, to keep things under control. But what's the cost of always choosing safe? It's the empty spaces where memories could have been, the silence where your voice could have lived. It doesn't hurt all at once. It creeps in slowly, quietly, like dust settling on furniture. You don't notice until one day you look around and realize everything feels dull, muted, and lifeless. And you ask yourself, was safety really worth this silence? Was staying comfortable worth the ache of wondering who I could have been?
That question stings, Ryan, because it's so true. And I think many people listening right now might feel that ache deep inside. It's the ache of staying still while your heart wants to move, the ache of holding your tongue when you long to speak, the ache of staying where it feels safe but never feeling truly alive. And the longer you stay in that place, the heavier it feels, almost as if your own body is resisting change because it's grown used to the weight. That heaviness isn't just emotional, it's physical. You wake up tired, uninspired, almost as if the comfort zone has drained the color out of your days.
Yes, Priya. And what makes it harder is that people don't always recognize this weight for what it is. They mistake it for laziness or lack of ambition or even weakness. But really, it's the hidden weight of staying too safe for too long. It's the silent cost of protecting yourself from discomfort. And the cruel part is, the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave. It's like sitting in a chair for hours. At first, it feels fine, but eventually, your body stiffens, your muscles tighten, and when you try to stand, it hurts. The same is true for life. The longer we sit in safety, the more painful it feels to move into the unknown.
And yet, Ryan, maybe that pain is also the signal we need. Maybe the heaviness, the restlessness, the ache of what-if moments. Maybe they're not punishments. Maybe they're whispers, reminders that we were never meant to live so small. They're the heart's way of saying, there's more for you out there. Don't settle here. And if you're listening right now and you feel that heaviness, that quiet dissatisfaction, don't ignore it. It's not weakness. It's not failure. It's the beginning of change. It's your life calling you to stand up, to stretch, and to finally open the window of that closed room.
You know, when we talk about stepping out of the comfort zone, people often imagine this big dramatic leap, like quitting your job overnight or moving to another country. But the truth? The first step is rarely bold. It's usually shaky, hesitant, even a little clumsy. I remember the first time I tried something completely unfamiliar. My hands were sweating, my voice cracked, and honestly, I almost talked myself out of it. But here's the thing. Even that shaky step counted. It wasn't graceful, it wasn't confident, but it was real. And sometimes that's enough to change the direction of your life.
Oh, Ryan, I can completely relate. For me, the first step always feels like standing at the edge of a swimming pool. The water looks cold. My mind starts making excuses, like maybe later, maybe tomorrow. But deep down, I know if I don't jump now, I might never do it. That hesitation, that nervous energy, it almost feels heavier than the step itself. And yet, once you dip your toe in, once you just start, the fear slowly begins to lose its grip. The first step may be tiny, but it carries the weight of all the courage we've been holding back.
Exactly, Priya. And what I find fascinating is how invisible that first step can look to others. Maybe no one noticed you spoke up in a meeting or tried saying a new word in English or walked into the gym for the first time. To the outside world, it's small. But inside you, it's huge. Because in that moment, you're rewriting the story you've been living. You're telling yourself, I can move beyond the walls I've built. That shaky moment is proof you're alive, growing, and refusing to let fear write your script.
And isn't it amazing, Ryan, how the body reacts? My heart races, my breath gets shallow. Sometimes I even feel a knot in my stomach. It's like every part of me is resisting change. But here's the shift. Instead of fighting those feelings, I've learned to see them as signs. Signs that I'm stretching, that I'm entering a space where growth actually happens. That nervousness, it's not a stop sign, it's a green light, telling me I'm moving into new territory.
That's powerful, Priya. And I think many listeners need to hear this. The first step doesn't have to feel good. It just has to be taken. You don't need confidence at the beginning. You need movement. Think of it like learning to ride a bike. Nobody starts steady. You wobble, you stumble, maybe even fall. But the act of trying, that's what eventually leads to balance. The same applies here. Your first step might not look like much, but it carries you out of the room you've been stuck in for far too long.
Yes, and to anyone listening right now, I want you to imagine this. Picture yourself standing at the edge of that comfort zone. Behind you is everything familiar, safe, predictable. In front of you is the unknown, and it feels intimidating. But you lift one foot, place it forward, and suddenly you're outside the box. That's it! One small act, one simple choice, and you've changed your path. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just take that shaky, imperfect step because it's real and it's the beginning of something extraordinary.
You know, Priya, the first thing that hits you when you step out of that comfort zone is how loud everything suddenly feels. Inside the safe space, it's quiet, predictable, almost numb. But out here, your heart beats faster, your thoughts race, your senses sharpen. It's like the world goes from mute to full volume in an instant. And yes, it's scary. You feel your hands tremble, your chest tighten, but at the same time, there's this pulse of life. Like you've woken up after being half asleep for years.
Exactly, Ryan. I remember the first time I really stretched myself. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't confident, it was messy. My voice cracked, my palms sweated, my mind kept telling me, go back, it's safer there. But here's the thing. Even in that chaos, there was a spark. I could almost feel my old self pulling me back while my future self was whispering, stay, this is where you grow. That tension, that's what living in the stretch really feels like.
And it's not just the external noise, is it? It's the internal dialogue, the doubts, the questions. Am I good enough? Am I ready? What if I fail? Those voices get louder when you leave safety. But here's what's wild. Along with the doubts, new voices start appearing too. Voices of courage, of curiosity. You begin to notice yourself asking, what if this works out? What if I'm capable of more than I thought I was? That mix of fear and hope creates a kind of hum, like standing at the edge of something alive.
Yes, and the hum feels uncomfortable, but also strangely addictive. Once you taste it, you realize that safety, as nice as it feels, has no flavor. It's plain, it's silent, but this stretch, it's spicy, it's unpredictable. It makes your heart skip in ways comfort never could. And that's the irony. The very thing that scares us also makes us feel the most alive. You can't feel that hum without stepping into the unknown.
I love that you said alive, Priya, because that's really it. In the stretch, even failure feels different. If you stumble, if you fall, it hurts, but it's real pain, not the dull ache of what if. Out here, mistakes aren't proof you're weak, they're signs you're moving. And every time you stay in that space, even if it's uncomfortable, you build a new layer of strength you never knew was possible.
And maybe that's the gift of the stretch. It strips away the illusion of safety and shows you the truth that growth is never silent, never smooth, but always worth it. When you're out here, your story starts to expand. Suddenly, you're not just existing, you're becoming. And for anyone listening right now, I want you to picture yourself what your own stretch might look like. Not a giant leap, not a perfect move, but that shaky, imperfect moment where you step into possibility and decide to stay there.
You know, Priya, it's amazing how the things that once felt impossible can start to feel almost natural. Think about it. The first time you spoke up in class or tried a new skill, your heart was racing, right? But the 10th time, it didn't feel nearly as scary. That's what happens when we keep taking those small steps. What used to terrify us becomes part of who we are. And slowly, almost without realizing, that fear begins to fade. The very same thing that once held us back becomes the key that sets us free.
Yes, Ryan. And I think the beautiful part is realizing that freedom doesn't come from everything being easy. It comes from us proving to ourselves that we can face what's uncomfortable. I remember when I first moved abroad, every little task felt overwhelming, buying groceries, taking the bus, even asking for directions. But with time, those small repeated steps built my confidence. One day, I woke up and thought, I'm not scared anymore. That shift, it felt like stepping into a bigger, freer version of myself.
Exactly. And when that shift happens, it's almost like you look back and wonder, why did I wait so long? The truth is, the cage was never really locked. It was just fear whispering in our ear, convincing us to stay put. But once you push the door, you realize it was always open. And that's a powerful image for me. We're not trapped. We're just learning to push against those invisible walls. Each push makes the cage bigger, until one day you step out completely.
That is such a strong picture, Ryan. And it's true. The first few pushes might feel shaky, even painful. But then comes that moment when breathing feels easier, lighter, freer, like you're not carrying the same weight anymore. Growth doesn't just expand your skills, it expands your lungs, your voice, your entire presence. It's the moment you realize, I was never as small as my fear made me believe. That's when discomfort stops being the enemy and starts becoming your ally.
I love that you said that, Priya. And maybe that's the gift of discomfort. It teaches us who we really are. Every time we step outside what feels safe, we collect evidence that we're stronger than we imagined. And once we know that, nobody can take it away. The freedom isn't about avoiding fear, it's about carrying it with us and still moving forward. So to everyone listening, imagine yourself stepping through that open door, your breath steady, your heart lighter, realizing you were never stuck to begin with.
Yes, and hold on to that image for just a moment. Picture yourself outside that cage, breathing deeper, smiling at the fact that it was only ever an illusion. What once looked like chains were just shadows of doubt. You are freer than you think, braver than you know, and stronger than your fear wants you to believe. That's the transformation. Discomfort isn't a punishment. It's the pathway to freedom. And right now, you're already walking it.
You know, as we come to the end of today's conversation, I just want to pause and say thank you. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with us. We know your time is precious, and our goal is always to make every minute meaningful for you. If today's talk gave you even a small spark, maybe an image of yourself stepping outside the familiar or the courage to take that first shaky step, then we've done what we hoped. Life is short, and the moments we share here are about reminding each other that growth is possible. So really, from the heart, thank you for listening.
Yes, I feel the same. Every time we sit down to record, we think about you, the person on the other side, giving us your attention, your energy, your trust. We try our best to make that time valuable, to give you something you can carry into your own life. And if today's episode helped you see discomfort in a new light, as not just something to fear, but something that can lead to freedom, then it was worth it. Keep walking, keep stretching, keep growing. And remember, you were never truly stuck. Thank you for being here with us, and we can't wait to meet you again in the next episode.